Hello and welcome to Shades and Layers. I'm your host, Kutlonos Kosana Richi, and today we are talking about podcasting for healing. This episode is also the start of a bigger series where I'll be interviewing other podcasters aligned with the Shades and Layers mission of amplifying the stories of Black and other women of color in business. My guest today is fellow South African and podcaster Lizzy Hudson. We met in Seattle. She works in social media marketing as well. Lizzy's podcast is called Live to Thrive, and she mostly interviews others who, like her, are healing from racial trauma and other challenges unique to people of color. She first came to podcasting in the 2010s, but this iteration of her journey was sparked by the public murder of George Floyd on the 25th of May in 2020. In our conversation, we discussed the personal impact of this moment and how far she has come since then. If you have ever considered starting a podcast, if you've ever wondered how to navigate social media while caring for your mental health, or you're just simply curious about the immigrant experience in 2020's America, then stick around. So, without further ado, let's hear it from Lizzy Hudson. So how would you describe your work at Live to Thrive podcast, and what's the deeper meaning you attach to the activities that you engage in?
Yeah, so with Live to Thrive podcast, I think how I attached my meaning in my work and my goals was to provide a platform for people of color to come onto and speak about their stories, how their stories can impact someone else that looks like them. I feel like when I was looking into podcasting and the podcasts that we have out there, there was not many podcasts that really focused on POC and how they deal with hard times and mental health. I think a lot of it came from my, after 2020 with George Floyd, and that kind of made like this whole whirlwind of how I could help in communities that were not supported. And so that's my like deeper meaning to my work on Live to Thrive podcast.
All right. So you are amplifying voices of people of color. And you call your podcast Live to Thrive. Why is that your chosen title, and how does it tie in to this work in real life?
Yeah, Live to Thrive podcast. I think how I came up with that name is that no matter where you are in life, you should be taking the steps to thrive in what realm or industry you're in. Before we started this podcast, I told you I'm a paid social media strategist, and I said that, that's nothing that I should like maybe talk about because I don't have a deeper meaning attached to it. And now this has just come full circle. I encourage people that whatever they do in life and whatever they choose to do in life, they should be thriving in it. So something like paid social media, off the top of my head, is nothing that I feel like I'm thriving in. I'm just doing it because, first of all, I'm interested in social media, but second of all, I do it because it pays the bills. You know what I mean?
You need to make a living somehow, sure.
Yeah, I need to make a living somehow, but at the same time, I need to practice what I preach and make sure that where I'm at in life, I'm thriving in every area that I touch. And so with Live to Thrive, this is something I'm passionate about. And it's why I decided to name my podcast Live to Thrive, because I want to push people that look like me and you, that are minorities, to make sure that they're thriving in every aspect of their life.
Mm-hmm. The one thing you do mention is that you have a full-time job that helps you to thrive in other areas of your life. And, this whole idea of thriving has become so linked to affluence and privilege, financial means. How does it land with you, me mentioning this? Because, of course, you've got to make money to keep a roof over your head and all the things. But the way thriving is sold to us nowadays is like, if you're not sipping champagne in the Bahamas every vacation, then your
You're
life is
not,
less than
yeah, you're not
worthy,
thriving.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is a good question because I think this is something that I have to really think about, because when I think of thriving, my definition is not necessarily sipping champagne in the Bahamas, making so much money that you can travel the world. And I think for me, thriving is more of like an internal feeling, being mentally stable, being okay with who I am as a person, not showing off, not doing things just to, get that pat on the back or that external validation from other people. I think for me, it's very much like I am okay. I have a roof over my head. I'm successful and also success is different. Like my success may be different to what you categorize success is. So I think that is my answer. I think that's where I like land about. It's like such a very muddy waters in this day and age. I think that everybody wants to, be Instagram ready. And if you are doing this, then you should have this. Or if you want to be this, then you should be able to travel here. Like that's not what I feel is like my end all be all. I just want to help and be mentally aligned with myself. Yeah.
So why did you choose podcasting as a format for supporting the community and also for amplifying these voices?
I think I chose a podcast firstly because coming from South Africa, I came to the States and I was super excited about coming to America because I wanted to be in the entertainment industry since I was a kid. And I either wanted to be on being a celebrity guest interviewer, like being on the red carpet and asking people who they're wearing, or I or
Yeah.
I wanted or I wanted to be on the radio. So that was like my dream ever since I was a kid. And when I came to the States, I really wanted to run after that. But during that time, breaking into the entertainment industry as a young Black South African, this was 2012. I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to start. And I remember a couple of years later when I was doing my lifestyle modeling, because that's how I got into my lifestyle modeling and social media and marketing and all that fun stuff.
Right.
I found podcasting, where I actually had a podcast called Lizzy Straight Out of Africa or something like that.
Love it.
In 2014. And I just spoke about my story a lot. And that was the closest thing to me as a radio host. And so when I was talking about my story and people were really interested in what I had to say, because that's another story for another day, I found a passion for podcasting, but I got bored of just talking to myself the whole time. And I was like, where do I have people come into my space and we talk about either business? Women in Business was one series I did. And it kind of just grew from that. Where Live to Thrive really came to fruition was after 2020, I went through a huge identity crisis for some reason. Well, it's not some reason. A huge reason was because when George Floyd happened and I saw that with my own eyes, I was like, we are not loved in this country.
Yeah.
And I moved from South Africa to get a better life, to find those opportunities and really thrive states. And when that happened, it kind of was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, this is something that we need to talk about. I need to bring this out. I need to talk to people that look like me. I need to talk to minority groups and talk to them about their experiences, how they go through their mental health, their struggles. And maybe this could be a tool for someone that is having a really hard day, where they may be in an office where they're the only Black person. And I mean, I'm in that situation right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think people don't talk about it enough. Like, as a Black woman, as a woman from a different country that sounds completely different from everybody within the office, I have so much imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm not supposed to be there. I think that I'm not worthy of being there, and I have to like continually tell myself that I was picked to be here for a reason. But that little voice in my head is like, you've been given this opportunity. You need to be happy that you're here, and you need to prove, you need to work harder to prove that you allowed to sit at the same table.
A lot
And
of pressure. Yeah.
it's a lot of pressure. So
Yeah.
that's why I started it.
Sure. So who are your guests? Where are they from? Are they all people of color or from America? You know, who do you speak to in general?
I speak to everybody within the United States. I mean, if I get big enough, maybe I'll branch out. And but yeah, it's everyone from the United States. I do like a little bit of a screening to see if that person's story resonates with my audience. And it's been a huge learning curve. I mean, you have your own podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
Of course.
If you you have to be really diligent. You have to line up guests, you have to screen them, you have to get them on. It's a lot of work. So all of my guests are from the States, and I primarily focus on Black people. It's been mostly like Black women in business, but now I interviewed a Latina, I interviewed a Korean woman. So I'm branching out, and it's really awesome.
Right. So the podcast for you is a way to also maintain your own mental health. This is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
And what are you hearing from your guests in terms of how they are staying sane in a hostile environment, so to speak?
First of all, yes, this podcast is very much for my own mental health. I think that it's helping me get through some situations that I kind of feel stuck in. Yes, therapy helps as well, but it's really nice to hear someone else's story where we resonate and we going through the same thing. Second of all, a lot of my guests they start about like where they came from, their history. Then they tell me about how they have overcome that. I've had guests on that have written books. So I had a woman that actually made a journal that takes you through step by step on how to overcome like that imposter syndrome. And that really stemmed from her background with her parents, not caring for her and things like that. And then she wrote a book, and that's how she got through her mental struggles. I have another girl came on and spoke about how when she's having that anxiety and mental stress from work, she really, really makes the point to take 3 deep breaths and just stand where she is and feel the ground underneath her to kind of come back. So it's just everybody goes through the same things, but not everybody deals with it the same, which is so great for me, because now I have tools to be like, oh, I can take 3 deep breaths and just stand here for a minute. Like I never thought of those things. So it's been great. It's been great hearing everybody's mental struggles and how they overcame them. And
Yeah.
it's helped me a lot.
Yeah. So what were your impressions of the United States when you moved here in 2012?
Oh my word, I was a fish out of water. I thought that I was, if I tell you the story, you're gonna laugh, but I used to watch Basketball Wives of LA.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I used to watch Basketball Wives of LA in South Africa, and I was like, okay, when I go to California, I'm gonna find myself a basketball husband. That happened.
I'm laughing because I've seen your husband. Yes, let's hear it. You couldn't get more different, but yes.
So different, so different. And so that didn't happen, guys. I do not have a basketball husband. I have a husband that's in the tech industry. So,
Yeah.
so when I came here, I actually landed in Santa Barbara, which is just an hour and a half out of LA, and super, super small town, beautiful, beautiful town, beach town, but so white, like so white. Literally, I was like one of the two other Black people that lived there.
Oh, wow.
And everybody would see me walking down the street and call me, "Hey, South Africa," you know?
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I dealt
Wow.
with, oh yeah,
I have a name. Hello.
yeah, exactly. My name's Lizzy. But it was a huge learning curve because I came here out of high school and, I went to boarding school in South Africa. So I was already very isolated. And then I
Right.
came to the States where it was just such a different culture, different food. And it wasn't a huge culture shock, but it was just a lot of trying to change my mindset, being in a town that was super white and having to try and blend in was really hard for me. And then also just navigating life as an adult. I didn't have, I'm out of high school. I don't have my mom. I have to figure out work. I have to figure out how to eat. I have to,
Right.
socialize and make a living for myself and make a name for myself. So it was hard, but I think that I would not be where I am at today, living in Seattle and doing the things that I love that I don't really have to think about, which most people don't have the privilege to do. So
Right.
I'm very, very lucky that I landed up here.
Yeah. I mean, you could have ended up anywhere in the world. UK, where South Africans go, Australia,
Yeah.
New Zealand. Why the USA?
That's a great question because after high school, we always take a gap year as South Africans. And I was going to go to the UK with one of my best friends and spend about 6 to 8 months there. And I then pulled out just because I was like, every South African goes to the UK. Let me try something different. So I planned to come to America for 6 to 8 months, and I have family that live in Santa Barbara. So I went and I stayed with them for a while, and then I started going to college in Santa Barbara, and that's how I ended up staying.
Oh, that's great. And the rest is history.
And this is history.
This is Shades and Layers, and my guest today is the creator and host of the Live to Thrive podcast and social media solopreneur, Lizzy Hudson. Up next, we discuss her take on how social media has evolved as a business tool and how artificial intelligence is changing the landscape. We also get to hear about her own struggles with social media and mental health. And most importantly, we zoom in on how the contrasts between South Africa and the USA have influenced her career and life choices. So let's talk about the freelancing side of it. What do you do in that space and who do you work with?
Yeah, so I still speak to a lot of my old clients in Santa Barbara. I had my own social media marketing business in Santa Barbara. And so with my freelancing, I help a little boutique store with her website. You're doing online sales. It's like an old mom and pop bikini store, and she doesn't know how to really be online. And so I help her with updates with her website, and I help her with selling stuff on her
Online.
website. I have a lady that does wigs and hair that needs help with her website. And then I also just give advice on how their social media is looking, how to grow their following, how to keep their Instagram feeds cohesive and clean for businesses. I think that, like, but now in 2023, I don't think people care about how cohesive your social media is. I think it's just how authentic you are. So doing that switch. And also people just don't like, you can't, like back in the day, it was like, how many followers do you have? Now it's actually about, are your followers interested in the story you're telling, and are they quality followers? So just giving them advice on their online presence.
Right. That's pretty cool. I mean, social media is one of those areas where I think a lot of people are doing guesswork. Most of us are doing guesswork.
Yeah.
So, there's talks of algorithms changing all the time. And now with AI, things are getting even murkier. So, yeah, I mean, how do you use it personally? How do you advise people to engage socially if, they have a small business and such?
Well, yeah, if you have a small business, I think being the number one thing nowadays, because like you said, AI, everything is about to be so fake. I got a Instagram ad not like a couple of days ago, of a woman just running down a random field, and then she used AI to make it look like she was running in a field where there was a huge castle and water around her. And it's this new app that can make you appear wherever you want in the world. And that wasn't intriguing to me. That actually scared me because I'm like, now people are going to share like not the truth because they want to.
And already there's a lot of that, right?
100%. And AI is a good thing and a bad thing. I think that there's going to be things that happen that are just fake stuff, fake living. But the advice I have for businesses is, yes, 100% hire your social media manager to make your stuff look professional and clean and whatever you need to do. But I think being authentically yourself is the biggest thing that resonates with people in general, because we're scrolling all the time. And so if I feel like you're not authentically yourself, I'm not going to follow you.
Sure.
In a world where everybody's online all the time, I think showing that humanness with you and your consumers will build that brand trust, and just being truthful, because Instagram ads sometimes get me, and I buy things off Instagram and then I'm like, I should not have done that. Why?
It's so easy. It's so easy.
So easy. Yeah. But you asked me about how I use social for my personal, and I think when I was living in Santa Barbara, I was aspiring to be a influencer, and I had thousands of followers. Like I was in the 15,000. If you look at my Instagram now, I'm down to 9 because I was really trying to get big, and I was doing professional photos, and I was podcasting, and I was this brand strategist and all of this fun, exciting stuff. And I always had to post every single day. And I think that during that time of my life, I went through a lot of difficulty as a small business owner or just a freelancer. I went through a lot of hard times because I had to always keep up with the times, because if I didn't post content, I would lose my following. And now I think what I use social media for is just to be authentically myself. I don't post every day. I don't post like beautiful pictures every day of myself. I sometimes look back at my old Instagram. I was like, oh my word, I cringe. I was so self-centered, if you want to say. Like I would like post a picture of myself and make sure that I had like over 300 likes to make me feel better. Now I don't care. I love sharing things about mental health. I love sharing things about my partner and I. I love home organizing. I love looking after my plants. So now I'm really trying to just be myself and being okay with not getting that validation. And it's been a huge learning curve for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that George Floyd was a big turning point for you. Was there anything else that brought you to this realization that, this whole, I would say, aesthetic aspiration was not it for you and probably not contributing to you thriving?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was George Floyd. That was like my biggest thing. My second biggest thing was I am adopted into a white family.
All right.
So I think, like, getting really deep now, I think the trigger was George Floyd, and then realizing racism is very much alive in this country, but it's been swept under the rug for many, 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 many years. I think I kind of had my blinders on from 2012 to 2020. And I shared my feelings with my mom, and she kind of didn't click how bad it was. And she made a comment that kind of triggered me where, oh, we living in America. She's a white South African, we went through apartheid, she adopted my sister. Now she's giving us so many opportunities that I love her for. And so she made a comment where it was like, oh, we in America now, they'll figure it out and they'll get justice. And I was like, no. But like justice literally killed him. Like, let's open our eyes a little bit, And so that was like the second thing where I was just like, oh my gosh, like I have nowhere to turn, because every time I turn, there's another white person. And I'm not discriminating. I mean, my partner's white, my family is white. We talk about this all the time. And I think that, like, for me, it was like realizing, and at the time I was living in a very, very predominantly white town. So everywhere I was looking, I felt like I didn't have anyone to turn to, because no one could understand. And that is when I actually went into like a depression, where I was like, what am I doing like here? Why am I firstly in this town? Why is my mom not clicking that there's something very wrong here? Why am I like feeling this way? And that's when I was like, I need an outlet. I need to get my feelings out. I need to, even if it's just me talking to myself, or even if it's me going online and interviewing someone that is going through the same feelings of exhaustion and sadness and like an identity crisis that I'm going through. And so that was kind of the turning point for me. And I think it's kind of it's left a stain. I think it's like made me realize wherever I go in life after 2020, I am very hyper aware of who's around me. I never really used to care. I used to just be like, people are people. I love everybody. Like, you black, you white.
Absolutely,
you
Christian,
you know? And now I walk into a room and I'll be like,
Yeah, but the US will also make you hyper aware. I mean, did you find a huge difference between being in South Africa, where, most people look like you, and you never had to think about, being black or being a person of color? But still, you did have to think about things like that, but it was in a different context. So what were the contrasts for you between South Africa and the US?
Well, I mean, I freaking love South Africa. I miss it so much. But I think for me, there was the flip coin of that, right? Is I was always called a coconut. growing up,
Mm-hmm.
black on the outside, white on the inside. And I always felt like I had to prove myself that I was black enough. And because I was surrounded by black people left, right, and center, which was amazing because, yeah, I saw myself everywhere. I loved it. But then there was the flip side where I had to feel I had to prove that I was African enough to my fellow black people. That was hard for me because I speak white.
Yeah, that thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I speak white. I even remember like a vivid memory in boarding school. We were walking down to the hall to eat breakfast or lunch, whatever it was, and we were walking in, and all the black kids were around a table, like laughing and making jokes and stuff like that. And my sister was there even, and I like walked up there to see like what they were talking about, and all my white friends took me back and was like, Lizzy, that's not for you. You're too white for that table.
Oh.
And I was like, what? And they're like, you're too white. Come, coconut. And I kind of, at that point in my like growing upness, if you want to say,
sure, yeah.
I was like, oh shit, like I'm black, but I'm not black enough. Like what? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right, right.
And then that's where I got the idea of always just loving whoever you are, no matter what you look like around me. Like I would not notice what you look like because I knew how I felt when someone noticed what I looked like and said that, oh, I don't belong. So I told myself growing up that no matter who you are, white, black, Asian, Latina, whatever you are, I'm going to accept you for who you are because I just don't want anyone to feel that like the feeling that I felt in that moment.
Right,
and then that's also when I came to the States, it was like, that's why I was so, love everybody. And then it's just like, I have a lot of weird.
No, absolutely. No. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which boarding school did you go to?
I went to Treverton College.
Okay.
In KwaZulu-Natal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, I went to Rodine and I still have scars.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, my word. I need to know all of those because it's for real.
It is for real. I mean, it's just so insidious, it's little things, it's like that, what they call the death of 1,000 cuts. It's not necessarily just one big incident, it's these little things that chip away at you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're getting into those contrasts between South Africa and the US. But now, where do you find yourself in terms of, making peace with everything that's happened and living your best life?
Living my best life. Still learning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 31 years old and I'm still learning. I am really trying to be mindful of how I talk to myself because I'm in my head all day. So just trying to be mindful of how I talk to myself. I am really not putting expectations on people that I care and love about, because if I do that, I know that I'm going to be disappointed. So I don't want to be disappointed. So learning to not have expectations, but just caring about the people that I love and really living in the moment is the biggest thing that I'm working on right now. In terms of peace and how I've really embraced that and working through it, I think that I don't have any animosity to any of the people that said those things in high school and things like that. I'm not holding on to the past. I think I am really focusing on letting go and letting be. I know that sounds so cliche and cringe, but it's making me really become at peace with myself, at peace with people that I interact with, and really knowing that wherever one person is in life is completely different to where you at, and you never know what other people are going through. So just not, it's that expectation factor again, just not having expectations on people, because then it just leads to disappointment.
This is Shades and Layers. It's now time to get into the nitty-gritty of podcasting with my guest, Lizzy Hudson, who hosts the Live to Thrive podcast, which can be found on the podcast player where you are listening to us right now. We also get into the Shades and Layers rapid fire, so stick around and find out what Lizzy is thinking in terms of writing her life story and the Black women she admires. Podcasting for healing. How do you meet other podcasters? I know we met online. So do you have fellow pod friends?
And I really want to have fellow pod friends. I think it would be cool to do like a panel or something.
Yeah.
With like, POC in podcast.
Yeah.
But it's, even though we hate it, we hate to love it, but social media is where I find all my podcast friends.
Sure. Absolutely.
I mean, that's how I met you. I've met another woman that has her own podcast, which is also just unapologetically herself, which I've like started following and stuff. And social media connects me to all my pod friends.
Great. And, how are you organized there? I know you've got this website, or rather a link tree, right, where people can book to be a guest and all of that. But, how are you organized in terms of, equipment? Have you had a rough landing and learning curve as far as getting into this space goes?
Yeah, it was pretty rough right at the beginning. But no, I have my equipment. You can book through Linktree. But yeah, there's a link. It will link you to my calendar. You choose a time for a screening. I like to screen people just to see what the vibe is, because I'm just interviewing random people. So I just want to make sure that we know each other a little bit before the podcast. And then I'll send you a link to the actual podcast day. And then I'll send you a link to where we meet, which is Zencaster, which is for podcasters. And then we record, and I have my little recording station right here. It's a big microphone, but this is good for Zoom. So I was like, let me use this one. So I have all my equipment.
That's all good. Yeah.
But yeah, I do have everything.
Yeah. And do you do all your own editing? Do you outsource? What's your setup there?
Maybe I should get advice from you here, because
oh my gosh.
I do my own editing. I did actually outsource to someone to edit, and I paid them a monthly fee. But I had to go into the podcast and re-edit what they had edited, because they would miss out certain things. Because like during a podcast, not everything flows properly.
Right.
Maybe you want to cut something out, but you have to make sure that it makes sense. So I outsourced, and I had to always do that. And I'm like, I'm doing more work than just sending my podcast to someone. So I've just come to terms to just editing and producing it. I mean, I still have a lot to learn with editing, and I edit on GarageBand, which is super simple, and it comes on the laptop. And I haven't gotten any complaints yet, so I guess that's a good sign.
It's always a good sign.
So how do you edit yours?
Yeah, so I use a platform called Hindenburg. That's because I'm an audio first podcast, and because I do have a background in radio, editing is something that I did professionally for a long time. So it's quite easy for me to work with the platform, listen in, chop, change, etc. So yeah, so that's been working for me. And then I just, send it out via Buzzsprout, and then I'm out on all the Yeah, it's my
platforms.
distribution, channels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then, as you can see, I've got my little booth here, which is literally a cupboard
I love
that my
it.
husband and I kind of kitted out with, these
Yeah,
pads, the soundproofing pads, and yeah, little
it looks really
decoration.
good.
And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's the simplest setup under the sun. My table is not even big enough for a mug of coffee. It's just
Oh, well, I can't see that on this thing.
which is a good thing.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I love it.
And
Yeah.
your podcast is weekly?
So I do seasons, and I usually have 8 to 10 episodes per season. And more or less, the episodes tie together their themes, and you'll find that the majority of episodes in one season is fashion. And I always have an ongoing conversation about beauty standards, hair, etc., all the issues that affect Black women, but mostly because I find that these are the spaces where Black women have found freedom and are thriving. It's in service to ourselves. So I always make sure to amplify that, whether you have a small batch production that makes skincare or, hair care. I always make room for those episodes in a season. Yeah. I'm founded in the belief that we all learn through stories. Like if you think about it, the first thing, it's stories, fairy tales, and whatever folk tales, whether it's from your grandma telling you stories or reading in a book, etc.
Yeah, totally.
Our life lessons come from stories. Yeah. So in terms of episodes, how many do you do? Do you do weekly? Is it an open, ongoing thing?
I used to just do interviews, but I think that in between interviews, I do a podcast of like a learning that I've done. Like,
right.
I did one about imposter syndrome. I did one about leveling your mindset. And so I break it out between like interviews and me. And then I literally do about also 8 to 10 episodes a season. But I'm trying something different this season. I want to see how like far I can get just consistently just putting episodes out. I don't have themes. My constant theme is mental health and your story. And also just how you overcame like hard situations in your life. And then also very much it's mostly women in business, women that have, had different experiences, maybe made a book, TV shows, so it's just everybody and anybody that has a good story to tell and contributes to my mental health theme.
Right. That's great. So where do you want to take it?
Good question. If I'm looking into the future, like, do I want to be like a huge podcast? That would be great. I think that would be my ultimate goal, where I could just podcast every day and meet different people. I think that's the ultimate goal. But I also know that it's just so much work.
You'd have to do it full time.
And there's no money in podcasting. I mean, yes, you get little advertisements here and there.
Sure.
But it's just like, I can't pay my mortgage.
Yeah, you have to finance it some other way, right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So I always do a rapid fire also with all my guests. And so 3 questions. First one, what would you call your memoir and why?
What I would call my memoir? I think it would just be very simple, just the life of Lizzy or something like that, or maybe overcoming adversity. I don't know, but those are the options. Or live to thrive. I'm kidding. And why? I think it would just be touching on how no matter where you come from in this life, you have the option to really thrive and make a life that you want. I think that I've been in this situation where I get stuck in feeling sorry for myself. So I think my memoir would be about my life story, about losing my mom at a young age, getting adopted into a white family, moving to boarding school, and coming to America on my own. Lots of turns and things have happened in my life that have been scary. And I think it's just to tell people that no matter where you come from, you can do it.
Yeah. Awesome. And let's take that book and turn it into a film. Who would you pick for the lead actress?
I feel like Gabrielle Union.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I can see the resemblance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last one is, which famous Black woman would you invite to dinner, living or dead, and why?
First name came up as like Rosa Parks, but I don't know. I think I want to change it though. So what famous woman?
Yeah, which famous Black woman would you invite to dinner, and why?
What's her name? That's from Empire.
Taraji P. Henson.
Yes.
Cookie.
Yeah, Cookie, Taraji P. Henson. I love her, and Viola Davis too. So, but I think I would want to meet Viola Davis, and I would love her to take me out for dinner because I have no money, so she needs to take me out to dinner. And I would love to talk to her about just her acting career, because I know that she's gone through a lot in regards to her acting career and stuff like that, with not being paid enough as other white actresses and things like that. And I also would love to pick her brain on all her characters. Like my favorite character is from How to Get Away with Murder. I love her in that.
Oh my God, Annalise, yeah. Annalise Keating.
Annalise,
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oof,
so
that was one scary woman.
Yep. So that's who I would want to chat to.
Yeah. Cool. That's fantastic. So where can people find you if they want to connect and work with you, or, just say hello?
You can say hello to me on my cast page, which is Live to Thrive Pod. So it's LiveToThrive pod, POD. So you can follow me there.
Fantastic. And that is all from me this time around. Thank you for listening, and thank you for recommending Shades and Layers to your friends. For a link to Lizzy Hudson's work, please visit the show notes. While you are there, please do a girl a favor by rating and reviewing Shades and Layers so that others can find us. 5 stars would be amazing. Thanks so much for your support. As always, I'm Kutlwanus Kosana Richie, and until next time, please do take good care.